Good morning, everyone. I think we're going to begin our fireside chat. It looks like we have a couple of our panelists still joining us, but they'll be more important in later in the agenda. They're always important, by the way, but they'll be even more important when it's their time to speak. I'd like to welcome everyone to this fireside chat about a new collaboration between the International Institute of Sustainable Development and the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education. My name is Ted Lawrence. I'm a Senior Policy Advisor at IISD and the Executive Director of ACARE. We created this collaboration over the past year to join the resources, experience, information, and techniques of the International Institute of Sustainable Development and all that comes with the experimental lakes area, which has been a leader in freshwater research and science for many years. And we're combining that with the powerful network that has just been created by ACARE of Great Lakes the African Great Lakes experts, their experience, information, and perspectives. It was just this last year, almost a year ago, exactly, that ACARE, which is led by African, European, and North American experts, created expert advisory groups on each of the African Great Lakes. Which you'll hear a little bit more about in the upcoming talk. There are 7 African Great Lakes, but we have 6 advisory groups because the experts on Lake Edward and Albert combined their efforts because they work so closely together. So what we're doing as a collaboration is we're strengthening science. We're increasing the network of the scientific community working on freshwater and large lakes. And we're increasing our ability to get more, better, comprehensive information so we can better inform policy and management on our large lakes. So the saying goes, it takes a village, but it's going to take more than one entity, more than one organization or country to address the issues that we have on large freshwater lakes. So it's actually going to take more than a village. So we're gathering all of our researchers, resources, and collaborating globally to try and get this done. And so, well, we do have more plans than we're going to discuss today. We have limited time, but we have many programs. We'll be talking about some of them, but many of our other programs on monitoring, aquaculture, education and training, climate change. We'll briefly touch on some of these. But if you have a desire to learn more, please contact us and we'll be happy to share as much as we can. So today's talks and panel is going to start off with Dr. Kevin Obiero. He's the Sagoro Center Director from the Kenyan Marine and Fisheries Research Institute out of Kenya. Near Kisumu on Lake Victoria. He's also the chair of ACARE, and he'll be speaking about the African Great Lakes and the ISD-ACARE partnership. After that, we're going to hear from Miss Stephanie Smith. She's ACARE strategic advisor, and she's going to be speaking about the overarching African Women in Science program. After that, we'll be hearing from Miss Cecilia Gethuki, or Dr. Modesta Medard. We're still figuring out our agenda at this very late moment. But Cecilia is going to be, she's a research scientist also at the Kenya Marine Fisheries Research Institute at the Kagadi Center. And she's going to be talking a little bit about women on Lake Victoria and the challenges and opportunities within fish value chains. And then Dr. Modesta Medard is with the World Wildlife Federation. I worked with her a bit on Lake Victoria about 10 years ago doing her research, and she'll be speaking to Lake Victoria. And to wrap up, after those talks, we're going to have a short panel of speakers that'll include myself for questions and discussion about the partnership and about anything covered. And we ask that you either during the talk or afterwards type any questions that you have in the question and answer function on Zoom, and we'll get to those afterwards. And of course, if anybody wants any detailed information, further contacts, partnerships, you can contact me personally at tlawrence@iisd.org. So with that, thank you, welcome, and I'm going to hand over our fireside chat to Dr. Kevin Obiero.
Thank you, Ted, for this opportunity. I want to welcome all the panelists and all the participants. Thank you for joining us on this fireside. I want to take this opportunity to welcome everybody and to share with us just a bit on what we have been doing. The two great institutions, that is ISD and ACARE, what we have been doing in terms of collaborating on to support the conservation of the African Great Lakes. So kindly, Sumit, can you share, allow me to share the screen?
Yeah, you should be able to share it on the green bottom, the green button at the bottom.
Okay, thank you. Right now it is now active.
Lovely.
Thank you. So thank you so much. We want to share on how two continents are working together to improve the health of the African Great Lakes. We have ACARE and also ISD that are based in the Laurentian Great Lakes, and also we have ACARE that is now basically working in the African Great Lakes. And I want to welcome all of us to this talk. So first of all, we know the importance of the African Great Lakes in that there are 7 of them, and they support over 25%. They contain over 25% of the world freshwater lakes. And this underpins the welfare and also livelihoods of over 50 million people. So you can see from the north up to the south in the East African region, those are where the African Great Lakes are. And from there, you can see that they are also cross-cutting 10 countries. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so I hope you are getting me. And then these Great Lakes are also supporting quite a number of people. So you can see over 50 million people depend on these resources directly. Though they are very important, we can see that they are suffering from multiple stressors from both the local scale and even up to the global scale. And some of them, we have increased human settlement. For example, the Lake Victoria Basin has a population density of 250 people per kilometer squared. We now have issues like now the high water level changes like Lake Turkana, Lake Baringo, Lake Naivasha are exceedingly now experiencing high water levels that are really impacting both on the infrastructure and also the livelihood of people. So these numerous and threatening issues coupled with biodiversity loss is, if not really managed well, can impact on the of the generations. And why the need for collaboration? First, we want to address the problem of disparate, parochial, and also short-term research. Mostly over the years, we find that this short-term research normally results in lack of comprehensive, comparable data sets. Secondly, you find that there is now lack of long-term, continuous, and constant data sets. For example, you want to do climate modeling. You can find that there's a period only for 4, maybe 3 years where continuous data is collected. Then 2 years down the line, there's nothing. Then another 5 years. So you may not find adequate data to do maybe modeling in the future. And then also there's lack of focused resources. You find that each institution, each organization is trying to do something, and there's no collective, gathering of these resources to ensure that we have maximum impact. Secondly, there's need to ensure that there's a continuous community of African freshwater experts and decision makers to continue to address the challenges that are affecting. And in this case, we are now trying to capacity building in the African Great Lakes and to address the freshwater issues that are affecting these vital resources. So this now calls for now these two organizations to come together, and ISD and ACARE have formed a partnership. And through this partnership, we now want to ensure that there's long-term, highly collaborative networks that are dedicated, first of all, to increasing capacity of the freshwater scientists, managers, and decision makers. Secondly, we were trying to now develop a perpetual collaborative process by which stakeholders come together and drive and strengthen science. And also, more importantly, to transfer scientific knowledge, because through scientific knowledge, we can now come up with adequate policy to guide the management of these resources, and also to facilitate, ACARE and ISD are going to facilitate collaborative, comprehensive ecosystem research through various committees. For example, monitoring, we'll have the education committee and also climate change committees. And through this also, we want to enhance communication and information exchange between scientists, the public, and also the policymakers. And we are adopting an approach that has been highly successful. That is the Lake Committee system that has been in operation for over 6 decades in the North American Laurentian Great Lakes. We really appreciate the information exchange that the Great Lakes Fishery Commission has been guiding us. And we thought this is a good model that can support the kind of work that is also going on in the African Great Lakes. So there are areas that we are also trying to ensure that we differ, but this is our general model. And as you can see, that ISD and ACARE, we are trying to ensure that right now we have the 6 lake advisory groups. So instead of calling them lake committees, we are calling them advisory groups. You can see that there are 6 of them out of the 7 African Great Lakes. That is because Lake Albert and Lake Edward normally are merged together. And from there, from the council from these local communities, we are going to have now a council at the upper level that is now intrabasin, that links, for example, Lake Malawi and also Lake Victoria. And through this partnership, we are also trying to ensure that the education, the monitoring, and aquaculture committees, for example, Will Leshen has been working in the African in the African region for a long time. It can be part of the aquaculture committee to ensure that we drive the agenda of conservation and also management. So ACARE formed through the funding support of the TNC, the Nature Conservancy. We have formed 6 advisory groups. That was in November of 2019. These are the participants who are there. And so through these advisory groups, we have now 3 strategies. The first strategy is, for example, to facilitate long-term research collaboration. And through this, the 6 advisory groups, which have been meeting, maybe due to the COVID issue, we thought now going virtual was more important. And since I think around June, we have been having monthly virtual meetings where the advisory groups are able to prioritize their research on the lake. They are able to give updates on the ongoing research and also develop policy solutions. And currently, we are also trying to work on projects as a team. And then now, these advisory groups, we now form a council of advisory groups that is now able to now harmonize the information across the basin. And it is important to note that ACARE and ISD is facilitating this process. We have a very active communication expert, Zeph, who has been able to coordinate all these 6 groups. We are trying to provide travel support in case now we'll be moving into in-person meetings, provide meeting support, and also facilitate communication. For example, we have set now communication channels with all the advisory groups, and every meeting we have detailed minutes which can now be shared with the scientific communities on the outcomes that are there. So this process is ongoing, and so far we have had the Lake Edward Albert advisory groups, because members of that scientific community are working together as a team. We have the Lake Kivu, we have the Lake Malawi, Nyasa Basin Fisheries and Aquaculture Network Group. We also have the Lake Tanganyika Science Advisory Groups and also the Lake Turkana Advisory Groups. I'm also a member of the Lake Turkana Advisory Groups. I've really appreciated the kind of exchange that is there. I really value the input of the Ethiopian partners. Before, we were not able to link up with them, but right now we are working as a team to ensure that we achieve the progress of that great lake that is now facing a lot of threats. Now, finally, we also have the Lake Victoria advisory groups that also is very, very active. Secondly, you can see that we are also trying to build the capacity through education and training. And this one, ISD and ACARE is trying to promote what is called now mobility programs. For example, you can, I've been a beneficiary of having studied in Europe. And through this, it was through a mobility program where we were working with 3 universities in East Africa with the Boko University in Europe. And through that exchange, you find that scientists from Africa can go to Europe, and then those from Europe can also come. We are trying to not only exchange students, but also lecturers. For example, you might be a lecturer who wants to contribute, for example, in the tropical region. This forum will now give you an opportunity. And one thing we are also promoting is the AWIS program, African Women in Science, which will be elaborated throughout this talk. This basically is to ensure that we are able to now share insights from a global perspective. And we value the input from the scientific community through academic and research institutions. Third strategy is that we are trying to provide a platform for information exchange. Through the Nature Conservancy funding, there was a website that was developed. And through this website, we have formed a rich information page for the public, quick facts about the African Great Lakes, their sizes, their maps, their demographics, and things like that. We are also going to have the advisory groups there. This will provide a communication tool for each of these international community members to communicate together and share their insights. And also we are trying to bring on board the researchers. We know that information, for example, exchange is a serious challenge, especially in the African Great Lakes. So this provides with a forum to share the research partnerships if you are working on a joint project, to share lab facilities, for example, to share data sets and also personnel. For example, you might be an institution that has some lab tools, for example, in the north, you can be able to share with us in the African Great Lakes. And to ensure sustainability, we have planned this in such a way that we shall be having in-person advisory group meetings where every year we are trying to organize all the advisory group members. Apart from the monthly meetings, we'll be having the annual meeting where we're able to share the findings, prioritize research, present trends, and things like that. And also the advisory council will also be meeting biannually to ensure that they also share at that intra-basin level. And more importantly, we are also trying to ensure that we have the African Great Lakes International Conference. We had one in 2017, which was very successful. And through this partnership between ISD and ACARE, we want to come up with every 3 years a major international conference cutting across major themes to ensure that we present some of the latest findings. And this will basically find input into the policy tools that we have. And all the government members, the scientists, the students will also be given an opportunity to present their findings. And through this, we are also trying to address the UN SDG goals. Through this partnership, we are trying to ensure that we address two major UN SDG goals, that is quality education and clean water and sanitization. You can also see that there are other benefits, attendant benefits, which will come out through this partnership. These are the team members we have. I'm the current board chair, but we benefit a lot from the inputs of the many, many members, especially from Africa and also from Europe and also from the globe. So this team has been very, very participative, very active, and very supportive. And we also have a dedicated ACARE staff, that is Jess and Ted. I really thank Ted for taking the lead on this and making sure that this team is moving forward. Lastly, we know that science knows no country because knowledge belongs to humanity. So this partnership is coming together to ensure that we back each other up. We come together as a community through the resources, through the opportunities that are going to be created through this partnership. We believe that the African Great Lakes are going to be healthy and also sustained and also conserved for the many generations that are going to come. So I really thank you so much for listening to me, and I will value the input from the panelists. Any question that is going to arise, we will be there to answer them. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Ted, I hand over back to you.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. That was a great talk. I just wanted to remind everyone, for those on the call, the participants, please type your questions into the question and answer tab at the bottom of your screen, should you have any. I'd like to now introduce Miss Stephanie Smith, who's the strategic advisor of ACARE. And she's going to be giving a talk about African women in science. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you, Ted. Hi, everyone. Just gonna share my screen with you and get started. So glad you're all here, although I can't see you all. I'm going to start this presentation and not sure why it's not starting on the first slide. This is a preview of all the slides. Okay, here we go. So my name is Stephanie Smith. As Ted said, I work as a strategic advisor for ACARE, and I am really happy to be here with you all today to talk a little bit about women in science in the African Great Lakes. I can see that some of my screen is being cut off, so I don't know why that is, but the top part of my title slide says African Women in Science. So just so you know, that is the title of what I will be talking about. And a little bit about me is that, as I said, I work with the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education. My background prior to that was not in the African Great Lakes, was in the North American Great Lakes. And my background is also not necessarily in African women in science. However, I've learned quite a bit in my work with ACARE, and we'll be developing a program that I want to share with you as part of this presentation. So just so you know that I do welcome, as part of this whole presentation, your questions and comments to help us as we're in process with developing this program. My role and goal in life is to facilitate and to bring people together and work in the service of collaboration, especially with a focus on water. So that has been really wonderful to be working on the African Great Lakes in that capacity. So I'll walk through this presentation with you all and just let you know that this presentation is driven by premise, understanding that the future does depend on women, and knowing that in many countries, all countries, I would say, we have issues with gender equality and gender equity. And so thinking particularly about Africa and the future of Africa, knowing that we have fully 50% of our population who are not able to have an equal voice in the workforce and in many other aspects of life. This is what I want to focus on a little bit with this particular presentation and program. So moving ahead, understanding that the inclusion of women in science is really vital. One of the things we're working on at ACARE is thinking about the question of not only inclusion, but leadership. So how can we include women in science and give them equal voice, but also a role in leadership and a voice at a high level? Thinking about the different issues, and there are many that are complex and intersecting, that have to do with women in the world, women in the workforce. I want to talk a little bit about some of those, just laying them out here. I won't go into, we could have whole presentations on each of these, but just talking about the intersection of these different issues creates a very large system, or is part of a very large system, where we see that because of these issues, we don't always see women able to have a strong voice in leadership. And so you'll see in this presentation, I have included a few questions. I don't want to answer them right now or have you answer them right now with your thoughts, but just to think about other areas, as I'm talking, other areas that may be connected to these systemic issues that lead to gender inequity. And just talking for a moment at the global level, that as we think about it, this is in science in particular on this slide, that you see my statistics, women are 53 of the world's bachelor's and master's degree graduates, 43% of PhD graduates. However, we see that there are much lower numbers when it comes to researchers, and in particular in science, technology, engineering, and math related, that's that STEM acronym, in those fields. And in sub-Saharan Africa, we see that 30% of sub-Saharan researchers in all subject areas are women. So we've got some low numbers, and as I say here, there is room for improvement. Fisheries and aquaculture are critical for food and income. And then when we think about women in these fields, again, they have historically and currently still are underrepresented in these fields. And so we said on the ACARE staff, how can we build capacity for emerging African women scientists in a way that's going to be able to support gender equity, gender equality, and Sustainable Development Goal 5 as part of the SDGs. And thinking, though, that that's part, again, of this larger system, we have begun to develop a program, and you see some of the details here for what we have, what we intend. But as I said, a lot of this is in the beginning stages still of development, well, mid stages more. We will be launching this program in the coming months. But as you can see, some of the goals here that we want to achieve, we're focused, as we've said earlier, on the African Great Lakes. That's the geography that ACARE is focused on. And so thinking about the cohort that we will build of women in this geography, and this is, as I said, an emerging program. We hope to continue it longer term and be able to build this program in the years to come. These are some of the key components, making sure that we think about how we build skills and develop networks in different ways, especially during this time when we're online so much and have access to remote technology that seems to be really improving in leaps and bounds for connecting and learning from each other. So just a little bit about what we're thinking about in terms of a few more details. We're in the planning phase, hoping to launch in early 2020. And right now we're learning from and working on partnerships with others doing this work to be able to establish a strong program that does not reinvent the wheel, but helps to work with others in doing this. And then a really important component I just want to point out is that we want to make sure we're listening to the women in this program to understand what their needs and goals are as part of the design. So designing it, but also leaving a bit of flex for that input. And then thinking certainly, as I said, about the remote components, but hoping that as conditions improve, that there will, in the future for this program, be in-person components where we're able to learn on site from each other in different geographies. This is a similar slide to, or the same, but reversed or smaller, I guess, slide to what Kevin showed earlier. And thinking again about this whole outline of the SDGs and understanding that gender equality is a thread that weaves throughout all of these. And when that is improved, all of these issues also will improve. And then just leaving us with a couple big questions to consider and thinking about how we can perhaps individually in our own lives, but also for ACARE in particular, partner with employers to ensure a pipeline to jobs and to leadership roles, because it's, as I said earlier, part of a big system here that we know we're working within. Improve remote experiences that facilitate real human-to-human interaction and growth. And then also to better understand and meet local professional needs within African-centric programs. So we're thinking about those questions, and in your work, perhaps you are too. We welcome continued conversation and new partnerships in thinking about how we best achieve this work. In closing, I'm going to leave you with this quote that talks about how important it is for us as human to human, being able to be open to new ideas and shifting. And for me, I think about gender equality and how that requires us to think a little bit differently in how we're interacting, how we're thinking, and the actions that we take each day. Thank you very much for this time. And with that, I will welcome, this is like a brief look at my contact info. I certainly welcome any ongoing conversations on this topic. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Ted.
Thank you, Steph. Great overview of the African Women in Science program and the ideas that we're working on and the programs that we're working on. In the same breath as Steph was saying, the underrepresentation of women, we're lucky to have some of the active women scientists on the African Great Lakes here with us today. And our first speaker is Ms. Cecilia Kithuki, as I mentioned, from the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute. And again, she'll speak with you about women in Lake Victoria. And so I pass that over to you, Cecilia. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about women, the challenges and the opportunities, and how this can be addressed, especially looking at broadly from the women in science, and even at the lower level. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you have your presentation to share?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great.
Let me share.
Do you have the share button at the bottom there?
Yeah, there I am. I hope what I have can be happening.
If you want, Cecilia, we can come back to you. We'll go to Modesta.
Yeah, you can talk from Modesta first, then you
have. I have it on my screen. Can I share it?
Yes, you can.
Please, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I hope you can see it.
Yes, I can.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you once again. I'm Cecilia Gidukia, and I will talk about women in Lake Victoria, challenges and opportunities in the fish value chain. To start the presentation, we understand that Lake Victoria is one of the African Great Lakes, and this lake supports many livelihoods. It's a source of water, it's a source of food, and other amenities. But the lake faces threat from environmental degradation, and this one has occurred due to issues to do with pollution and the sewage disposals and such. This one has caused the lake to have negative effects, especially when it comes to the catches, the water quality, which is having a negative effect, especially to the population. And from this, I talk about the challenges. And when we talk about the environmental degradation, the reduced catches have an effect on what the fisherfolk can be able to get from the lake. And coming back to what Stephanie has just explained about the issue to do with women empowerment, having fewer women in STEM, the science, technology, and engineering and mathematics. This one has been something which should be handled because the trends which we see currently are usually male-oriented. And this one usually leads to women disempowerment they do not scale up as much as it is expected. And when they fail to, then the effect is not just for the women, but it is for the entire household and even the entire nation, broadly speaking. And scaling this one down now to the fisherfolk who we are dealing with in Kenyan part of Lake Victoria, we find that the fisherfolk are facing many challenges which are emanating from the environmental degradation. As I have said, when the fish catches have reduced, when the water quality is bad, the person who is hit most by this negative effect is the woman. And to add on that, the socio-cultural and economic factors are too much on them once again, especially when we talk about the poor access to resources. Resources like being able to fish, it is a socio-cultural factor. Women are not allowed to get into the lake. And as a result, they're expected to wait for the fish from the men once they fish. And since the fish stocks are reduced, then there is some competition which comes in because they cannot get as much as they want, and therefore the profit margins are usually lower. The economic factors come to play when we talk about the profit margins. Again, when it comes to the issues of decision making, the women are affected because they cannot just say that if I want another livelihood opportunity, like having now moving into aquaculture, if the issue of the collecting the fish from the world is not working, many are the times when they cannot make such decisions because most of the resources, especially land, are owned by men. So they cannot freely say that I will construct a fish pond in this portion of my land. They have to seek permission from their husbands. And at times they face a lot of resistance. Moving on, women are usually not well represented once again in socio, economic, and political associations. And this one emanates from time constraints because of their responsibility at home. And once again, many are the times when they cannot be able to make a decision that I need to attend this event. They have to seek permission, and at times it is a challenge. All these factors have led to poverty, and the poverty brings about the issue of sex for fish, what we call the Jaboa economy, and it has led to the increase in incidences of HIV and AIDS. There is also the issue of poor health and sanitation. Maybe to explain a little bit, sex for fish is a transactional sex trade in the Lake Victoria, whereby you find that since the fish stocks are lower, the women are forced to exchange sexual favors with the fishermen so that they can get the fish. And unfortunately, this one not only affects their health, but also they still have to pay for the fish. The fish will still not be for free. And this kind of competition is very unhealthy. Moving to the other slide, there are the opportunities. Challenges come with some opportunities. And broadly speaking, and also trying to talk about linking from what Stephanie has talked about, there is the ACARE support. The ACARE is supporting the women experts. It is a network of women experts in the freshwater lakes, the 10 in Africa and others in America. And these scientists are supposed to lead as role models so that whatever we are doing, the translation which you are getting, we can scale it down to the other women in other sectors of the economy, especially the fishery sector. So the training is happening annually, and we are so much appreciative of this. When we scale it down now to what is happening in the fisherfolk, we found that we have women organizations as an opportunity, which the women are formed at their levels, issues to do with table banking, whereby they can get some money, collect it, and then one of the women can be given the money to use for some venture, maybe fish farming or some investment. And it's kind of merry-go-round thing. Then you have the social development organization, which they have, so that they can be able to upgrade themselves economically. We also find within the Lake Victoria Basin, and especially within the 5 counties which are bordering the lake, the Kenyan part, there are several projects which are taking place. One of the projects, majorly they are on capacity building. One of them is from Africa. They have promoted fish farming, a great deal, capacity building. We have World Neighbors, which is in Homa Bay County. And we have the Eco Network Africa. Eco Network Africa is significantly transforming women, whereby they are constructing fish cages, giving them the seed and the feed, a group of about 25 women in Homa Bay County. And this transformation is very much appreciated by the women whom we are also working with. And coming into our case study, I'll talk about World Vision, which I have been able to work with. They are supporting farmers in the integrated fish farming program. And this kind of integration, the farmers can have some vegetables, some chicken, some fish, so that they can be able to get the nutrients from the different value chain within their farms. Through this support, many farmers have reported improved livelihoods and changing behaviors, especially to those who are involved in sex for fish, the Jamboya economy. I'll give a case study of the Everest Women Group in Homa Bay County. This women group I've been able to work with under the umbrella of World Vision. They used to get the fish from the lake. They are fish traders. They were fish traders by then, back in 2016. And when the catches kept reducing, they were faced with the challenge of being forced to involve themselves in the Jamboya economy, that is sex for fish. And since they knew the threats to their families and even to their health, the issue of the HIV/AIDS, other sexually related infections and such, they were not ready to engage in such. And they sat together and asked themselves, what can we be able to do? How can we come out of this kind of challenge and still be able to provide for our families? Because as I have said, it is poverty which makes people to involve in such behaviors because they do not have other livelihood opportunities. And thank God for the World Vision. They came along and were able to assist the women. It was a group of 10 to 20 women, but they were able to join hands, at least 10 of them in a group. They were supported by World Vision through capacity building, which involved some form of training. Some of them were trained on how to process fish fins. As we can see here, there is the community fish feed processing plant. Others were taught how to make, to prepare the fish seed, and even how to be able to rear them until they attain the size which is expected before they stock them into the farms. And before this one happened, there was it was still associated with some challenges, as I have said, that the women still face some challenges. There is the chairperson of the group who we spoke to, and she was telling us, though she really wanted to transform in terms of the economic aspect, when she went to her home and explained to the husband that since I do not want to engage in fish trading anymore, I wish to start a fish farm. But the husband told her that you cannot construct a fish pond in my homestead. That is not allowed. We do not allow women to take the lead in such economic activities. It is the man to say what is supposed to be done. If the man doesn't have an idea, you have to wait until the man decides on what is to be done. And since she didn't want to do this thing, she kept reminding the husband, but it brought some wrangles until she was actually chased away and she went back to her parents. And after some discussion and trying to negotiate about the issues which were facing them, the man was convinced by the village elders to accept maybe it is a nice idea. It will bring some transformation economically. And the husband agreed. She was able to be supported by the World Vision. She constructed one fish pond. She was having some vegetables and some chicken. After a period of 6 months, because Homa Bay County is very hot, the fish usually grow faster. She was even supported by quality fingerlings and fish feeds. After a period of 6 months, the harvest was very nice. They were able to sell the fish, and they even were able to plow back the profits. They were able to construct an extra fish pond and stocked it and started feeding the fish pond with the feeds. And after a period of about 2 years, the lady was having about 7 fish ponds. And from what she was telling us is that economically, she has been able to get some transformation. She can take her children to better schools. She can afford a balanced diet. She has the vegetables. She has the chicken. She has the fish.
You can wrap up, please. Time
And
is
even
running
the
out.
family, they are being able to be economically secure because they can have some money for other activities. And the key message is that women empowerment is key because strong women mean strong communities. It is not just for the benefit of the woman only, but the entire community, the household and the community. And if women are given the same productive resources as men, the increase in the yield in their farm can be around 20 to 30%. So this is our group of women, and these are the yield. So that is it I have for the challenges and opportunities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cecilia. That was a great talk. And you mentioned role models within your talk, and you are one of them. As is our next speaker, we are running out of time. So we will probably have a truncated question and answer, but I do want to introduce to you Dr. Modesta Medard. Modesta, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to your talk. You are muted. And I think you're still muted, Modesta. There you go.
Moment.
Thank you. We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. My topic was a case study of work already underway to protect the African Great Lakes. See, this is the topic I was given by Teddy. But for Tanzanian part, I remember the women scientists under AKEA. There was one lady from University of Dar es Salaam. Her name is Lulu Kaaya, who was involved on that. And unfortunately, we have not yet communicated. So I thought for the purpose of this presentation, maybe I can shed lights on the gender, fisheries, and globalization and the impact on women. And I will focus on Lake Victoria. This is one of the Great Lakes, and I've been working in this lake for many years with a lot of research, which I've done, and I'm very much comfortable to talk about this lake than any other Great Lakes, actually. Why this is important, the connection between gender, globalization, and fisheries in Lake Victoria or Great Lakes region is because the globalization has really hurt women, their families, and the lakeside communities in the Great Lakes region, be it in Lake Victoria, in Lake Tanganyika, Turkana, or other minor lakes. It is an issue, and it is being driven by globalization processes. One of the aspects which I want to talk about is the loss of income, employment, and livelihood for women in fishing communities. Historically, if I take you back in the early 60s, fishermen did everything. They fished, they processed, they transported, they went to the trading areas, and they stayed sometimes out for almost 3 months while undertaking those activities. And then they came home after those 3 months. But in 1970s, up to 80s, women were somehow leading in the processing sector. It was about 70 to 90% in most of the articles. But in 90s up to 2000, it fell down to 45 up to 50%. And I remember this study was carried out at the regional level in Victoria in 2002. And presently, women participation is falling dramatically. Why? Is because many have taken the position of women, especially in processing sector. And this is because of money. And money, which is very much connected to the global market. So money is one of the key drivers, and also the market is one of the key drivers for men to take over the business. The other aspect is denial of access. Denial of access, it has also impacted women. Presently, the fishing organization has really changed, especially in Tanzania. I see also the difference between Tanzania and Kenya, but we are more or less, Uganda is coming to us. But for us, fishing in Lake Victoria, especially for Nile perch fishery, you can't survive if you are not connected to fish processing factories. And fishers who are engaged in that business, they normally own big camps. They have also sub camps. They own quite a number of nets and fishing gear. They have fleets of crew members and supervisors. And normally the industrial processors supply them with engines, fuel, and quite a number of accessories. So they do the business in terms of loan. And while they are fishing and they are providing fish to the industrial processors is when now their loans are being deducted. So the fishing has changed. It is now an institution. It is now a fishing enterprise, especially when one person is owning such kind of camps. And this is particularly for the Nile perch fishery. So with this arrangement, more time is required in fishing and trading. Market is driving the fishing industry, especially the regional and export. One has to be connected to a powerful network for him to survive. Otherwise, he will be out of the network. There is a lot of capital intensity. You have to acquire the capital, and huge credits and loans is a common phenomenon. So in here, I was trying to share some photos which I've taken in some of the research which I've undertaken in Lake Victoria. For example, this one is, it was a boat which was bringing some crew members in one of the fishing camps. So you can see this is just a small number, but one fishing camp can own up to 200 boats, 150. So, and the average number of crew is 3 for Nile perch and 4 for Dagaa fishery. So here I was also talking to one of the prominent fishers. This lady is owning a Dagaa camp, and the 2 men are owning Nile perch fishing camps in one of the islands in Sengerema district. And here you can see some crew member taking lunch. They take lunch just before going out fishing. They normally go out fishing at 4. And here crew members are trying to put some anchors, repairing to their net. So they prepare the anchors so that they can go and fix them in their net. So this is the kind of organization, some of the organization which are taking place in some of the camps. And here I just want to show you the food is served in one of the camps, life jackets, which are kept for crew members. And for those who are owning big camps, they also have to have a vehicle or a boat which is coming to take their fish and transporting them to the factory. So some of the transports are owned by fishermen as individual, and some of them they are brought by industrial processors. The camps are also facilitated with the other activity. I mean, you can see here, crew members also are playing game. So there are so many games around when they wait to go out fishing at around 4 p.m. They have also instituted some laws and regulations to avoid theft. Here you can see some crew members were caught stealing some pressure lamps. So I was able to take some of the photos. You can see here also, it's like an industry. This is a fishing camp, but people also who are mending nets, who are making nets, they are also there. They are brought by the camp owner. So it is like, as I said, an enterprise, an institution which is well coordinated and organized. Here you can see that we have also the problem of multi-paneling of nets in Lake Victoria. This was for Nile perch. You can see, so the investment is quite big. In one boat, normally they can put 70 nets. So you can imagine how much money is invested. These bottles here is for bait. Bait fishery is also used in long lines. So there's huge amount of people who are transporting bait to the islands. And the baits are kept that way, and they are stored in specific rooms. And normally they use for long line fishery to catch Nile perch. Now, all this has impacted women in one way or another. So women now are struggling. They are struggling how to get fish for trading, how to get fish to feed their families. And as I said, the powerful fishermen, they are connected to industrial processors. But women, they are not powerful. Majority of them, they are very poor. And most of them, they don't own boats. And if they own boats, then they have to hire crew members who are very trusted and do the activity under the supervision of their brothers or themselves. It is very difficult for women. But now women, what they do normally, they connect with the fishermen who are really using destructive fishing gears. That is the only way they can survive. And most of them, they are connected to beach seiners, under mesh net owners, and normally they get immature fish, small size fish. Because of course, the big one, they are going to industrial processors. You know, we have a slot size in Lake Victoria. And also they supply also firewood in most of the fishing camps. So women are also part of the victim in destruction of fishing habitats and aquatic environment because of their network they do in order to survive. And why this is happening is because of higher competition in getting fish supply, different strategies which are used in fish production, collection, and so on. And also men have power and they are very powerful to finance their camps and all other intermediaries in the fish production or fish trade. So women now have to struggle in a very low profile in order to survive and engage themselves in illegality. Just wanted to show you some of the firewood and some of the beach seine, which is happening in Lake Victoria, though it is prohibited, but now, fishermen are very tricky. You can see now they are fishing with beach seine in rocky area, which is not normal. Normally beach seine is undertaken in the sandy area, but because it is prohibited and because they avoid to be apprehended, so they normally hide in rock areas. And they do it very fast because such kind of beach seine, they are not long enough. Because the long beach seine, it can take 2 or 3 hours to pull to the towards the shore.
Hey, Modesta, we'll have to
yes.
wrap up fairly quickly. We're at the end of the hour. Thank you.
Okay. I'm finishing very quickly.
Great, thank you.
There's another issue, women have been dislocated from Lakeshore. There are so many things which are happening in the Lakeshore communities. People have monopolized some of the beaches, putting a lot of investment. Now you know that we have aquaculture and cage culture. And historically, women have been very much attached to the lake because of the activity at the household level, washing utensils, washing clothes, and so on. So there are so many things now happening. And there are also breakup of communities and social problem. So we see that women normally, when men go out fishing, they are left behind with their family, sick people, elderly, and so on. Men also go to isolated areas. So a lot of burden also is left to women. We have also the issue of HIV/AIDS because when men go out, they also, of course, have the relationship with other women. So there's a risk also in terms of health A lot of PhD studies are being undertaken, but not only by TAFIRI, but other institutions, even the National Institute for Medical Research for the case of Mwanza. Here, I just wanted to show you some of the pictures which I was talking to some of the women in some villages, getting some information about the gender studies. And here I was in Sengerema, and here I was in Magu district. So in summary, there is a lot of uncertainty for women in fisheries as a result of globalization. They are not trusted with their family once they engage in fishing, because normally you have to go far, you have to leave the husband if you are married, and you have to stay for a long time. So there's a little bit of mistrust for a woman who is engaged in fishing or fishery trade. They are labeled normally as prostitutes when they undertake such kind of activity. And they are also unable to secure a substantial amount of loans, as I said, and also they lack collateral is one of the hindrance factor, because they have to own valuable assets to get loan maybe from the bank and so on. So that is what I wanted to share with you, what is happening as a result of fisheries globalization. And I believe WACARE can consider such kind of issues in our research. I was not able to connect to Steve and Cecilia. We have not talked, but otherwise, I think in the future we will connect and be able to allocate properly the issues for sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Modesta, and thank you everyone who was on this call, on this meeting, who had wonderful information. I would like to tell everyone that we are going to stay on for a handful of minutes here to answer any more questions. We have a few that came up. A recording of this will be available to all registered participants, so I assume that's everyone here on the call. And I welcome our panelists to also chime in on any of the questions. We had a few which I tried to answer during the Q&A here. And one of them is postdoc opportunities on the African Great Lakes. And my colleague Ishmael Kamiri out of Tanzania indicated that, of course, we can host you in, I assume Ishmael is talking about Kigoma on Lake Tanganyika. But we're still developing education and training programs throughout the area. It's in its very early stages, but we anticipate there being many, many opportunities. If you have specific research or specific ideas or lakes that you want to work on, please do contact me. Somebody asked about monitoring programs in place. This is also something that's very in the early stages, and it's going to require a lot of different variables. And it's going to be a fairly extensive program. We have colleagues globally working on developing this, including I saw one of our participants is Pierre Denis Plisner, who is helping us advance this. And then I'm going to now defer to some of our participants, our panelists, about are there any programs in place to measure changes in women's empowerment? And I would think that Modesta or Cecilia might have information on that. So you're both muted. Any information on whether there's programs to measure changes in women's empowerment?
I will say yes.
And well, that's good. Do we have any, do you know of those programs or any other information on that? For the people who were asking that, you can also contact us and we can find more information.
Yeah, sure. There are programs to measure empowerment. It depends on what you want.
Great. And we're getting a handful of our other questions. Go ahead, Modesta.
Sorry, Ted. Yeah, I mean, at regional level, normally it is the LVA4 who is coordinating some of the program.
That's the Lake Victoria
and
Fisheries Organization, for those not familiar.
yeah. At national level, I know there are different initiatives by different organizations sometimes, and there's no coordination sometimes to the LVFO, especially when some of the activity are being undertaken by NGO or other organizations. So I believe maybe if you can give us time to understand, to ask around, but otherwise a well-coordinated for our case in Tanzania, I doubt.
This is good I'll speak with my team to see if we can have this be a part of the information process that we get out to people interested in the African Great Lakes and women's empowerment. Maybe it can be a metric that we follow. And I suppose that we need to, because we need to make sure that our work is actually empowering women instead of just being a showpiece. We do want to make sure that we're activating women in the sciences, having them be role models and doing good work, and strengthening the scientific community. We need to know how it's going. Does anybody know if there are micro loans to women to support women's businesses? Modesta or Cecilia?
Yes.
There are micro loan programs. I think it's a fairly extensive programs in Africa. This is not one of my specialties, and I think Katie Thomas asked this. If you want to contact me, and we can find out more information about that.
Yes, I wanted to mention that there are several programs by different organizations, especially the non-governmental organizations. So it depends on which side. For example, in Tanzania, you may find both local and global organizations. So specifically, it may support the women in fisheries or the traders, but there are also other funding programs. So maybe we can give more specific information depending on the locality. Thank you.
Sounds good. I want to thank everyone for your time, for your interest, and we're going to wrap up. I have a slide showing my my contact information. Whatever question you have, I will either have the answer or I have connections with people who have the answers. It's most likely the second part, because we have created a wonderful network of experts globally, from ISD, ELA, the African Great Lakes, and our experts in Europe and North America. So any questions you have, you can send to me. I apologize, we couldn't get to all of the questions. We have a couple more on there. But I see that Will, you have a question, and I think we can all discuss more in the near future. So with that, I want to thank everyone again, and look forward to partnering with you all, discussing more ideas and advancing and strengthening science globally, and especially on the African Great Lakes. With that, have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Modesta. Cecilia, thank you. Kevin and Steph, thank you also.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Ted.